Right. Good evening, everyone. We're going to open the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission for the Town of Trumbull for the May 7th, 2024 agenda. I will ask our clerk to do a roll call.
Richard Gerard,
Present.
John Loria,
John, you're
He's muted,
muted.
but he's here.
okay. Carmine
Struggling.
DeFeo.
I'm muted. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Carmine DeFeo,
Present.
Rich Deacon,
Present.
David Bresby,
Present, and my apologies for being late.
Greg Cernica,
Present.
Robert Ferrigno,
Present.
town staff, Bill Maher,
Here.
John Mayer,
Here.
attorney James Cordone,
I am here.
and Tatiana Solovey, who is absent. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Colleen. All right, now I'm going to ask our town attorney to give us the legal aspect of doing a Zoom meeting, if you would, sir.
No problem, Mr. Chairman. As we have been doing, we've been conducting our meetings pursuant to Connecticut law by video conference and teleconference over the telephone and the internet. I would ask folks to please state their names prior to speaking for the benefit of those who are only listening by the telephone. I'd ask folks to be recognized by the chairman before speaking as well. There is a public hearing tonight, so during that time, the instructions will be given on how to electronically raise your hand, or you can hit *9 on the phone, and that'll indicate that you want to speak, and you'll be brought in to the meeting to speak. The agenda for the meeting tonight was posted 24 hours in advance of the meeting, as well as supporting application materials. Please note that posting any sort of comment on any sort of online format will not be included in the record, and the commission will not see those comments. I would remind everyone that tonight's meeting is being recorded. And lastly, I would ask the chairman to make sure that any votes that are taken are conducted by roll call unless the vote is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. All right, we will open new business. Application 24-11. It's Timberly and Emily Stump. It's a permit approval to bring in 30 yards of fill to regrade backyard and remove 3 trees in a regulated area at 22 Woodcrest Avenue. For the record, this application was before us in 2012. And the Bill Maher, who's the engineer of record tonight, was actually there also. And this is a situation where they let their approval run out, the 5 years, and they're just looking to renew it. So what I would ask of the commission, I think we should just make this a agent approval. Let it go to Tatiana because Bill reviewed it and there's no changes to it. Am I correct, Bill?
Yes, this is substantially the same application as it was 12 years ago.
So are we all good with that? Go ahead, Bob.
You need a motion, Mr. Chairman? I'll make.
Yep. Oh. Go
I'll
ahead,
second Mr.
Rich.
Ferguson's motion.
Okay, and seconded?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's motions out to approve that application 24-11 become a agent approval for our town engineer to handle a new application for 22 Woodcrest Avenue. I'm a yes. Carmine?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Rich? Deacon?
Yes.
It passes. Thank you. Okay, application 24-12. It's Sorry Farney. It's a permit approval for an addition to a single family home within a regulated area at 320 Shelton Road. As I understand it, I believe Commissioner Ferrigno lives very close to this property. Is that true, Bob?
Yes, but it's not abutting,
Mr. Chairman.
So what do we do on this one, Attorney Cordone? It doesn't abut, he's in the neighborhood. Do we recuse or let him go?
It's up to Commissioner Ferrigno. If he's within the appeal area, which I believe is 75 feet, then probably best to recuse. If you're further away, then it's up to you. There's no strict requirement.
I'm not sure if I'm 75 feet away or not, but maybe it's best to recuse myself.
Yeah, when in doubt, best to step out. So we'll just have you recuse yourself. You can just shut off your video during this time, and
Okay,
we'll have you come back in at the end. Thank you, Mr. Ferrigno.
okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm looking to see, is there a spokesperson or applicant for 320 Shelton Road?
There's a person, there's Joe Codispoti in the audience with his hands
Yes.
raised.
Okay. Okay. Can
Yes,
you
good evening.
introduce yourself, give us your address and all that?
Sure. My name is Joseph Codispoti. Office is at 263 Boston Post Road in Orange, Connecticut.
And what is it you do, sir?
I'm a professional land surveyor.
There you go. All right, and you are representing application 24-12. Can you give us an overview?
Sure. So this is a single-family home on a approximately 57,000 square foot lot. It's an existing home. The application before you has been approved by all the agencies, the town engineer, zoning. So we're before you folks tonight. What we're proposing to do is basically put an addition on an existing single-family home. Before you see plans for drainage by Nafis and Young. Again, those were approved by the city engineer. Why we are before you tonight is there's an intermittent water course that runs on the northerly side of the property. This water course runs, well, we've had a lot of rain lately, so it's running pretty good. So we are in the review area for the intermittent water course. What we're proposing to do is, as on the plans, we are proposing to add a second story to the existing first story of a house, and then put on an additional one-story addition to that. As you can
By
see,
any chance, are you able to put this up on the screen, to share a screen? Might be easier for the commission.
I don't know if I have paper plans. I don't know if I have the actual plans.
Okay, well,
I
in that
can
case, all the
share it.
commissioners will review their paper then.
John, can you bring
Yeah.
up the digital?
There you go.
There we go.
Okay, if you could, can you sort of, yeah, there you go, John.
There we go. So this is where the bulk of, right there is where the bulk of the work is taking place. You see that what is in blue is proposed. So Nafis and Young came up with 22 Cultec units to catch the roof runoff and put it back into the ground. We propose on just where the hand is moving slightly, we have some silt fence being proposed all along the stream, just south of the stream bank, with hay bales to protect any runoff from going into the watercourse. There is no additional pavement being put down, and again, the storm water runoff from the roofs will be collected by the Cultex designed by Nafis and Young. It's about 30 feet from the corner of the proposed addition to the head wall. So we are somewhat of a distance away from the head wall, so we don't anticipate any impact to the wetlands. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Again, this is is existing family home. We're looking to add on to.
Through the chair.
Go ahead, Carmine.
I don't see elevation drawings of the property, the topography.
Unfortunately, they are there. They're not coming through too well on the screen, but I can assure you they are on the paper copies. This property does slope down from the road toward the head wall. That's why we have the silt fence in the position where it is. They're not showing up on the screen there, but they are on the paper copies.
Will the addition have a basement?
And it does not appear to have a basement, no.
And are any trees being removed?
We are proposing to clear a little bit. You can see the green line on the easterly side where the Coltex are. That's somewhat the existing vegetation line. At one point, we were proposing to extend that out with the blue line there that you see. But that could be modified. But there's not a whole lot of trees there as right now.
Well, I believe the answer should be yes or no, not a little or some.
We probably will have to remove a few trees just to get the Coltech units in. But other than that, we don't anticipating clearing on the other trees.
If we decide to walk this property, you can have those trees marked?
Well, yeah, we could do that. Again, I don't want to oversimplify it, but it is we're proposing an addition onto the house. We actually have a building permit in hand, but we understand if you want to do that, that's obviously entirely up to you.
Well, our
Just
concern
for the
is the
record.
wetlands and trees absorb a lot of water. And we need to know how many trees are being taken down.
Okay.
We're saying something?
Well, you can't have a building permit if
Well,
if wetlands didn't sign off on it.
So
I was gonna,
for the record, I did, believing that this was an agent approval, I had actually mistakenly signed off on this permit.
This is not an agent approval.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously we would work with the commission, whatever they want to do. That's obviously not a problem. We can mark out anything that you want to see.
well, let me hold on one second. John Loria, would you give the areas that you'd like to see marked? You always do that. Also, I did a overview and it appears there used to be or presently is in a I can't even talk, above ground pools. I'm assuming that's being removed?
Correct.
All right.
Oh, do we assume what's in blue is new?
Yes.
That includes the Coltex and everything else that's going underground, right?
Correct.
So definitely, if we were looking at this map, definitely would want to see the top left corner of the house. Maybe you can move your mouse over it, John, just to make sure that we're talking about the spot. Right next to where it says gravel lawn field. You go up, see that? Yeah, right to the right. There's the corner of the house. We should identify that spot. Thank you. Then let's put some stakes along the Coltech. So I think we've got sort of I wouldn't say it's V shape, but it's not great either. How about 3 points? On the top one, I'm not sure if that's north of the Toltec, over to down. See where it says concrete washout? Yeah. You see where that, yeah, right above that, we got the little dot. Yeah, where we're gonna put the hay bales. Just put it right, let's put them around where we're gonna put hay bales. How's that? Start, take out that area. So how about three stakes along that bent line, if you want to call it that would show us the end points to where we're gonna put the hay bales.
And our trees.
Yeah, and let's, any of the trees that are 4 inches at breast height or higher that you're going to take down, they should have a ribbon on. All of them should be uniform. Not put ribbons on the trees you're going to keep. The trees you're going to take down. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to add?
Through the chair.
Go ahead, Rich.
I just had a question about the, it mentions there's a old metal drain pipe. It says that it's dry, but are we going to be monitoring that for any new flow, or is it going to be blocked in any way?
Well, we'll see the drain pipe go out on our field walk.
Okay, Rich, are you asking if it's going to remain functional or is it being discontinued? What was your question?
I'm just asking if it's going to be used in any way, or if they're planning on removing it, or just simply abandoning it, because it mentioned there's footing drains going out in that general vicinity, but there's also, 18 inches is a pretty sizable pipe if we're just going to abandon and bury it.
I don't think there's any intention of abandoning the pipe. I think that would stay there.
Okay, so no one's ever intending on connecting that pipe to anything.
Well, okay, so again, it's not showing up in the electronic version, but on the paper copy, there's a basin on Shelton Road. You see the there it is, right by, see that basin?
Right.
So there's a pipe that connects the basin down to the head wall. I'm sorry, it's not coming through in the electronic copy.
No, that's fine, as long as it's
not
if
on
it's
the
being
paper either.
maintained.
It's actually on the paper copy I'm looking at it, yeah. But we can maybe make it darker.
Is there an easement for maintenance of that pipe?
That is, it could have been recorded a long time ago or put in a long time ago. There doesn't appear to be anything on the record.
Is the pipe clogged right now?
I'm sorry, I can't understand you.
I'm sorry. Is the pipe clogged right now, or is it does it need to be cleaned, or is it fine the way it is right now?
No, the pipe is it functions as far as it doesn't function all the time. It just handles the runoff from the road. So if it's not raining, it's not gonna pick up too much water.
But it's not half filled with sand right now.
No, John, there's 4 of them.
There's 4 of these pipes. Okay.
Well, they're all going to the same place. The problem is it says it's dry, but it didn't clarify if it was seasonally intermittent or if it's only during high rain events. But I just don't see it doesn't show any of them, so I can't see the other 3 pipes.
I only see one pipe coming off the corner of the house.
There's the second one that's right next to it where it says
Yeah.
18.
Yeah, and then there's another one we can't see because it's the one that goes to the head wall.
And then what about the roof leaders? I figured
Aren't they part of the footing drains?
The roof leaders go into the Coltex.
Okay, so there's only 3 then, not 4. Okay.
Gotcha. footing drains go into the stream, roof leaders go into the Coltex, and then we have a stream that's going through the property. type thing. Okay,
Okay. And Bill can inspect it.
yeah, we'll take a peek.
All right,
Through the chair.
any other questions?
Through the chair.
Is that Greg? I
David.
can't see everyone, so go ahead, David.
It's, I've got a couple questions here. First off, Mr. Codispoti, I don't see your name on this application or these plans anywhere. I see Paul Stowell surveying. I see David Nafis.
Correct. He's
Just
the
clarify
engineer.
for the record how you're associated with this and that you do have a letter of authorization on the record that you can present this application.
Sure.
Because you're not associated with any of these plans as far as I can
No,
tell.
I am
or your
not.
firm
No.
is.
No, I am not.
Or your firm
So
isn't.
Paul
So I'm-
Stoll, very fine. Paul Stoll broke his, had a mishap and broke his ankle. So
you're
he was laid
designated
up and
hitter
couldn't-
tonight.
Yeah, I am pinch hitting.
You're pinch hitting.
There's
Fair enough.
Sean Lisi is also here. He's the contractor for the property. Well, when I say here, virtually here.
That's fine. I just want it clear
Yeah, I
for the record
understand.
that
I understand.
how you're involved.
I just-
And you're pinch hitting, which
Yes.
is fine.
Yeah.
On your zoning chart or on the zoning chart that was prepared, we've got required existing and existing. There's no proposed column. I'm sure it's a typo, but there needs to be a proposed column.
Yeah.
Do we have a square footage of increase in impervious coverage? Because I don't see it listed on the application anywhere.
We can get that over to you. That's not a problem.
Okay. On the paper copies, contours aren't showing at all. So I've got a 300 contour, I've got a 290 contour, and that's it. So the intermediate 2-foot contours are not showing. That would be really helpful and pertinent for this application. I'm not seeing any existing condition on this in terms of the backyard. All I'm seeing is proposed grading. So it's very difficult for me to understand what's going on with this application in terms of proposed grading and additional clearing and whatnot. So that needs to get clarified of the existing conditions versus proposed conditions on this plan so we can sort out what's really going on here. Typically, when there's a disturbance such as this, the commission would request a continuous planted buffer around the areas of disturbance. So basically from the corner of the driveway where you've got the hay bales to there seems to be a small stone wall on the south side of the Coltex units. So along that perimeter of disturbance, a continuous planted buffer, alternating native plants 5 foot on center. An appropriate professional, either a landscape architect or environmental consultant, should provide a planting plan for this area using native plants.
Sure. We could do that. Could be done.
Okay. So we've got increasing coverage, disturbed area setbacks. Both of those need to be in there. We've got to update the plan so we can actually see the contours and what's going on versus existing versus proposed and the plantings. And that pretty much covers my comments at this point.
Okay, through the
And you're
chair.
pinch hitting. Good luck.
All right. Go ahead,
Thank you.
Greg.
Appreciate it.
I have a quick question on the Coltech units. This is going to be 100% detention and infiltration? Because sometimes what's going to happen if these things fill up? Normally you see a discharge port if it fills up. Are these designed to be to hold 100%?
I would have to defer that. Again, these were approved by the city engineer or town engineer.
No, they were not approved by the town engineer.
Oh.
Just for the record.
Okay. I just, the box was checked on the engineering, so. Okay, we can, that would have to be answered.
Yeah, because if there's a overflow of discharge, where is it going? Where's the path?
Understood. Again, Sean Lisi is here to answer any other questions as well.
All right, you're all set there, Greg? Anyone else from the commission?
All set.
Okay, we're good. All right, so I think
good.
as I understand it, for our next meeting, if you can do the markings as Commissioner Lawyer asked for, and then if you can submit a buffer planting plan, your contours, increased pervious coverage, and then what the existing conditions are. Let's see. We've got the tree clearing there. Anything that I'm missing? If anybody wants to jump in,
Can I say something, Sean here?
go ahead. Identify yourself if you would and give your address, sir.
Sean Lisi, 49 Laurie Drive, Milford, Connecticut.
Yep.
How you guys doing?
Not too bad. Go ahead, sir.
So the homeowners actually cleared a few trees a couple of years ago when their son was born. They were trying to make a little yard behind the pool. And they never really ended up doing anything with that. So you just got a few stumps back there. So no more trees will be taken away per se. Can you guys hear me still?
Yep.
Yeah, so no more trees are going to be removed from the property for this in particular job.
All right. What I would ask then, if that be the case, John asked that the farthest left-hand corner of the addition be done. I'd ask that the right corner would be done, and then if you can go over and mark off where the deck is, just so we can get a feeling of where we are.
The existing deck?
No, the proposed deck that you've got there.
Okay.
Yeah. So this way we can look and, get a feeling of the property here. Let's see. I'm trying to see here and it's difficult. John, can you move your plan up a bit? Nope, you went the other way. Or as they say in the military, or other, there you go. All right. Grinder. Pump, Woodstock. All right.
Through the chair.
Go ahead, David. Can you see anything I missed?
No, but if there's no additional trees to be removed as part of this application, it should be noted somewhere on the plan that no additional trees are to be removed as part of this application. Because right now it's difficult, the way the plan is presented, it's difficult to determine what's existing and what's proposed. We're seeing a proposed edge of canopy and clearing, and we could assume that, there's a ton of clearing going on. Or we could assume that this is the existing limits of disturbance.
Okay.
So somewhere on the plan it needs to be identified that and stated that there are no additional trees to be removed as part of this application. Does that make sense?
It does.
And to reiterate, the contours are very important because, helps us to get a feel of exactly what you're doing, how much of coverage and all that.
Understood.
Yeah, I apologize for the contours not showing up, but I don't know why.
Something that did come up, I'm trying to remember, somebody had asked if there's going to be a basement.
Yes, there is a basement.
Okay, so what are you doing with that soil? And where would be your, I don't see a stock, okay, I see a wood stockpile. Where would be your pile for your soil? You'd have to show that also.
Okay.
And then what do you do with all that soil? Are you spreading
Oh, it's
that?
it's got to be removed from the property. There's really nowhere to put it.
All right, so that should also be on your plan.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Go ahead, David.
Given that there's going to be a basement on this project, and we're in Connecticut, high groundwater table, lots of rain. Is there a dewatering program on the plan and a dewatering location? So if you have to pump out this basement area after the hole's dug, where's that water going? How are we preventing it from getting into the stream? That sort of stuff. So there needs to be some sort of dewatering program on the specifications here.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? If not,
So I have one more question, Sean, again.
go ahead.
So I understand there's some miscommunications here. We were given the building permit. The homeowners have rented an Airbnb for the next 5 months. I'm not really sure how to handle this end of it because it's a no refund policy if you're familiar with Airbnb. So they technically have to move out. Well, they don't have to move out, but they have a place rented for June 1.
So what is
My question is it okay to begin the early stages here?
no, I would say let us walk it and then we'll come back to you, I believe. Is it June 4th, I believe, is our next meeting. Because unfortunately, there was some miscommunications, there was some misunderstanding. Fortunately, this is just way too large a project for an administrative, so. But we will try to see if we can't get everything done for you next month. If you can supply everything, so there are no other questions, left hanging, so to speak.
Yep, I understand.
All right. All right. Are we good? If that's the case, then good night, gentlemen. I need a motion to close new business.
I'll make
And
the
if you
motion to
take this
close
off
new
the screen,
business.
John.
Second.
Thank you, David. And who's seconding?
Second.
And that's Rich. Okay, all in favor? I'll do it. Okay. If Colleen, can you get Mr. Ferrigno back online again?
Mr. Chairman, this is the point I bow out, right?
Yes, sir. I'm not going to say it's the best part of the evening either. I'm going to be kind to you. I may think it, but I won't say it.
So Commissioner Deacon is stepping out of the meeting at this point because he was not appointed for the applications that were pending, not sitting on the board while they were pending.
So it's for the old business and for the public hearing applications. Okay. Waiting to see if once Bob comes back on, we'll start again. Okay, we're good. All right, we're going to go to old business, application 24-05. And it's for a Tesla. It's Scott Austin. And it was a permit approval to install 12 electric vehicle chargers, 3 superchargers, switchgear, and a pad-mounted transformer within a regulated area at 120/140 Holly Lane. I know there were questions from this the last meeting. Mr. Chin, do we have anybody in the audience that's coming for this that you can see to speak for the Tesla application?
I'm promoting someone.
I see a Ted Crawford. Are you representing Tesla, sir?
Yes, sir. Sorry, trying to get my computer to work. Yes,
If you can give your name and your company and your position.
sure. Ted Crawford, Dewberry Engineering, and I am the design engineer for the project, for the proposed Tesla project. representing Tesla today. Unfortunately, Scott Lawson will not be able to join us tonight.
All right, let me ask the commission this. There were questions that came about and we had nobody to answer them. Should we go around and you can ask the questions of Mr. Crawford, or would you rather he does a quick presentation? I think we pretty much know what's going to be happening. So give us a moment here, which we had organized.
Mr. Chairman, a quick presentation, maybe, just a review.
Okay.
Well, I'll let you know, my internet keeps dropping out.
Yeah, your speech is kind of garbled tonight too, John.
Yeah, I moved my computer close to the bottom.
Yeah, you're going in and out on us. All right, well, while we're waiting, I guess
Maybe
the
I'll move.
question of the day is, we saw that Tesla is pulling a lot of their superchargers, so, but this one's continuing, so. Any changes from when it was submitted?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I don't know the status of the long-term project. We're just working to kind of wrap up this application for Tesla right now. But we did attempt to address all the commission's concerns from the previous meeting. Tatiana was able to provide me a list of comments, and if you'd like, I'm happy to go through those.
Yeah, if you would, sir.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, we don't have Tatiana in tonight.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'll share my screen. I think might be the best bet. There we go. Let's see if this works. Okay. So these are our revised sets, but I'm going to jump right to sheet C1. Just kind of give you an overview of the project.
A little larger, if you could.
Right here. How's that? Does that help a little bit?
Yep.
Okay. So our proposed chargers are in the same location as they were before. One of the changes we did, actually, I'll just go right through it. First was the area needs to be cleaned up before the permits are issued. So what we actually added was a note that said trash to be removed in vicinity of proposed work. And if there's any additional requirements, I'm sure they'd be happy to make that work as well.
Well, one thing I would point out is I would go to the water's edge. Include, extend your square to the stream there, so we get all that cleaned also. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. All right. The square, it only really represents the site plans, but I understand what you're saying exactly. Okay. And then the second comment was to provide a detailed landscaping plan. So I'll just jump to that sheet real quick for the commission. So what we prepared was a landscaping plan, a little bit more substantial. You might remember originally we had some trees, some dogwoods planted in the vicinity of the tree line. What we've done now is we've added several more behind all of the chargers here in this vicinity. We've also added a small sedge or a tall grass to kind of complement those dogwoods in this area as well, to create a vegetated buffer between the parking lot, the chargers, and then the wooded area, and then obviously the wetland down below. We've carried that around to the other side over here where our transformer is and some of the electrical equipment. And then the idea was to maintain the wooded area and the trees, protect the trees here, as well as add additional soil as requested over all the trenching areas and all the exposed root areas of the trees there as well. I'm going to jump back.
Also, I'm going to jump in for a moment.
Okay.
To the top where your transformers are, you had quite a few roots showing. And I think we had talked about some soil coming in on that. Am I right on that one, David? I believe that came out. Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'll add this, that we we added a note too as well, said additional soil to be placed over all disturbed areas and exposed roots adjacent to the disturbed areas. So kind of a doubles it there. So it's not just only where we've shown, it's everywhere where we're working that there are exposed roots. The intent is to add that soil as needed. Let's see, one of the other items that came up, I'm going to jump back. Please interrupt me if you have any questions.
No. You're doing good. Thank you.
Okay. What we ended up doing is one of the initial, I attended the original meeting. I didn't present, but I do remember the commission having concerns regarding the trenching of the conduits behind the charging stations. So what we did do was move that conduit to the pavement area here. So that'll now jump out and run in front of the chargers here. So it'll limit that disturbance, kind of where I'm indicating with my mouse. So hopefully that resolves that concern. There was a comment regarding the existing light. I apologize. The intent was to have it just simply relocated. So now we have shown a new relocation spot for that. I'll jump one page back. You can see that the existing light is right behind this catch basin. So what we've done is we've just shifted it down out of the way, but not any closer into the wood line, just down the edge of pavement there. This is kind of a shrubbed area. I'm sure the commission has already seen this area, but this is kind of a shrubbed area here, and the wood line actually is a little bit farther back. And then there was, I believe, one last comment regarding trash. So what we've done is we've added 2 trash receptacles to the project, one near our accessible charging location here, basically on one end, and then on the opposite end, we've added a second receptacle here, and I'll show you what they look like in our detail sheets. Just a basic trash can, a little bit more, I guess, decorative than standard on a concrete pad. So I think that was addressing the 6 comments we had. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions the commission might have, or any more detail.
Yeah, this comes out to Bob and David. Did you have a chance to review the shrubs and trees, and do you agree with what's being proposed, and will they survive? Because that's your area of expertise. Certain things won't, and certain things are better. Certain climates, certain areas.
Right.
So jump in
through the chair. I think
David.
the comment was made that we wanted trees to be planted. They do have the silky dogwood, which is a shrub, and then the sedge, which is sort of a grassy perennial, does not do well in sort of super shaded areas with excessively dry soils, which is probably what we've got in the back here. There are probably better choices for plant material to choose. I don't see that anyone was consulted with the preparation of this planting plan. It might have been the consulting professional engineer who put on his planting hat to do this plan, but it doesn't state who actually prepared the planting plan. That's my comment on the initial review of the plan. Bob, what are your thoughts?
I'm thinking the same thing, David. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Bob. I didn't mean to talk over you. Go ahead.
Yes, David. Were we consulted? The town consulted concerning the layout of the plants and the species?
It's typically not up to the town to select the plants. It's the applicant's responsibility to engage a professional who can come up with a planting plan that meets to our approval and to the regulations. So
I guess that's directed to the gentleman here. Was a plan submitted to the town?
When we were putting this together, we did reach out to Tatiana and ask for any suggestions. And she had just said basically what you would come back with, should provide a more substantial, robust, I think was her exact comment was, submit a proper restoration planting plan with specific quantities and species. I believe the applicant would be more than willing to adjust the plants species if needed to, if the commission feels there's something a little bit more I guess appropriate for this location. I think the idea of the shrubs and the grasses was to kind of blend into the wooded area to the rear of the development, and not plant as many new trees, but more kind of as it enters into that wooded area as well. Kind of create.
I have a question for you. Where
Sure.
do you obtain water to be, until these get to stabilize? And it's got to be what, 6 months, a year until they stabilize and then go through some dry periods and things, David?
Yes.
In the interim, don't you have to water pretty regularly?
Yes. So the goal with a planting such as this would be to plant in the fall so that you at least get 3 wet seasons before you get a dry season, hopefully. So, the plantings would not, a note should be added to the plans that the plantings not to be done in July through August, or June through August. And they need to be watered appropriately. But again, I think the silky dogwood is an okay choice. The broom sedge, I don't believe would survive in this location, so it would be kind of a waste. There's better choices of plant material that could be planted here that would do better.
All right. Any other comments from the commission?
Through the chair.
Go ahead, Carmine.
It was just for a number of our education. It was mentioned initially why these spots were chosen versus in the back closer to where the transformer is and everything. And there was a reason given as to why they could not go there. Can that be explained again?
I might not be able to explain it completely because I was not part of the initial choices, but typically these sites are driven by 2 things. One, power and the accessibility to the appropriate power, and that's driven by the utility. And the second is generally the landlord or the parent owner of the property. In this case, Target would work with Tesla to pick these locations. And I assume they've looked at the entire parcel, and this was the location that kind of fit both those aspects. Unfortunately, I don't have the specific history and details for why these locations were chosen. I know the initial thought was to install the chargers here along this bank. However, there was an easement, electrical easement, and storm drainage. So the alternate spot was the spaces that they are shown now.
And I think that was the reason that was explained. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. Anything else from the commission? Okay, if not, we're good, Mr. Crawford. Did you have anything else? And otherwise, we're going to move on.
No, I think if you don't have any more questions, I think that's all set.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to application 24-07, Mariana Lodge. It is permit approval for barn addition within a regulated area at 15 Saxony Drive. And we gotta wait to see if Ms. Lodge comes on. She was the spokeslady last time. There she is.
Good evening,
Okay.
Commissioners.
Good
My
evening,
name
if you can.
I am the homeowner's agent and I am representing Carlos Santos on this matter that we continued.
And we need your company and your address.
My company is Arch Thomas Design Studio and we're located at 106 Country Place in Shelton, Connecticut.
Thank you, thank you. Okay,
So as per our last meeting, I provided copies of the full survey as requested. We updated the plant names to show the scientific names as requested. And we also took care of the chicken coop with zoning. So we're all set with that.
you're
And I
keeping the
believe,
chickens?
oh yeah, the chickens are staying.
Okay, so I don't have to come over with my Save the Chicken sign. Okay,
No, I'll still be able to collect eggs when I come by.
right.
And we provided the full drainage report for John Mayer and Tatiana to take a look at. And I'm here today to see if you have any questions or concerns and ask that we might close this today or try to get a remediation plan enact.
Okay, well, on the proposed stormwater design, I'm seeing that it's saying chicken coop to be removed. That's not the case, right? You're keeping it.
Oh yes, we will be
Good.
keeping
All
it
right.
after speaking to Brian. We
All
were
right.
able to keep it.
That's good. I'm gonna go to John, seeing that you worked on this with Tatiana, John Mayer. Do you have any comments, questions, anything? Are you happy with what was presented on the questions we had for last meeting?
Yes, the drainage plan, there are a few minor things like the 100-foot setback needs to be revised to include the fish pond. But the location of the system and all of that is okay.
Okay, so that's
So just a
something
few
that
minor
you,
revisions that can be made when she drops off a final hard copy.
okay, so if we pass this with those conditions, then you'd be happy?
Yes.
Okay, so one is a revised 100-foot setback for, so we can write them down if Greg is listening. So when we do the motion, give them to Greg, so we'll know what it is.
Revised 100-foot setback to reflect that the man-made fish pond is considered
Okay.
wetlands.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it from us.
All right. Questions from the commission? If we're good, I'm gonna move on to our next application. Comments, questions? Going once? Twice? Okay. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Lodge. We're
You're
gonna move
welcome.
on
Thank
to
you
our
for your
public
time.
hearing. All right,
Thank you for your time.
you take care.
You too.
All right, Carmine,
Yes, sir.
can you read the public hearing application on the back of the agenda? And this will be for application 24-06, David Arendt. It's a permit approval to construct a single-family residence within a regulated area at Lot 4 West Misha Road. So,
Okay, notice is hereby given that the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission of the Town of Trumbull will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 at 7 p.m. via video conference. And access information is provided for that. The application 24-06, David Arndt, permit approval to construct a single-family residence within a regulated area at Lot 4 West Misha Road, Trumbull, Connecticut. A copy of the applications and maps are on file in the town engineer's office and on the Town of Trumbull website. Public comment can be sent via email to C. Lombardo. Can't read the thing.
Trumbull,
At
Connecticut,
trumbull-cp.gov. Must be received 24 hours in advance of the meeting, or public comment can be made via phone or video conference connection at the public hearing. Dated at Trumbull, Connecticut, this third day of April 2024. Richard H. Gerard, Senior, Chairman, Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission of the Town of Trumbull.
Thank you. Okay, I'm waiting to see, let's see, Mr. Cordone, you said that Attorney Hollister would be here? Or a representative?
I think I see Mr. William Kenny raising his hand. So John, if John or Bill, if you could bring Mr. Kenny in.
Should we go over what was spoken to when you spoke to Attorney Hollister and what's going to happen tonight? Presentation and the rest of it? Do you want to give an overview?
Well, let's bring Mr. Kenny in, and we'll let them begin their presentation. And I think the understanding is that the public hearing will remain open until next month. So,
Through the chair.
Good evening, Mr. Kenny.
Go ahead, Colleen.
I was going to say, I do see that Mr. Hollister is here, so somebody, if John can bring him in as well.
Also, Mr. Edwards, Jason Edwards should be there.
Sure.
Thank you.
Is Jan Bradley part of your team, Mr. Kenny?
I
I'm a
do not
resident.
believe so. No, she is not part of the, she is
I'm
one of
just,
the
I'm just
residents.
a resident.
Okay, so I'll ask that Mr. Bradley be moved to the side, please. And then we will, residents will have a chance to speak at the necessary time. Okay, thank you so much. I think we're all set now.
Okay, what if we start with Mr. Kenny, and then Attorney Hollister can join us when he comes on? And then I'm assuming that Mr. Edwards is available for comment when he comes on. So you know the procedure, Mr. Kenny. Go ahead.
Here's Mr. Hollister.
Attorney Hollister is coming on right now, I believe.
There we go. I was desperately trying to get everybody's attention. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, good evening. Am I good to go, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead. Go for it, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Chairman Gerard, Commission members, those listening online. I'm Attorney Tim Hollister, Hinckley, Allen, and Snyder in Hartford. I represent the applicant. With me online are Bill Kenny, our soil scientist and wetland scientist, and Jason Edwards is our professional engineer, J. Edwards and Associates in Monroe, Connecticut. And Mr. Arendt, the applicant and property owner, is also online. Want to thank Ms. Lombardo. I understand Ms. Olive's not here, but she was helpful in getting us to tonight, and always Attorney Cordone. Just for the record, the public hearing mailing was done in mid-April, and I provided Ms. Lombardo with a certificate of mailing. I want to put on the record what are the application materials are from the applicant so far. So we have the original February 20th application package, which was submitted both in hard copy and electronically. Recall that we were then in front of this commission on March 5th. We made our initial presentation and presented slides. We then, after the site walk on March 25th, we submitted a supplement dated March 26th. And that's important because we then in that submission, revised the site plan in response to comments and questions that had been raised at March 5th. And I'll come back to that shortly. There are two letters dated April 18th, one to the commission, just reminding the members to give us any further questions or comments in preparation for this hearing. And I would note we did not receive any, but I assume there'll be some that will surface tonight. And then we also wrote to the letter of concern to the Conservation Commission, which I'll come back to. Then last Thursday, May 2nd, we had another set of supplemental materials, which I'll refer to in our presentation. And then finally, the slideshow that we have tonight. As I think most of you know, this application or this property was also before the commission in 2022. So I'm going to ask that we incorporate the materials from that application as background to this application. As you just alluded to, Mr. Chairman, this is our fourth appearance before this commission on this application, but we do not expect to be able to finish the public hearing tonight, basically for one reason, which is that we have engineering comments from town staff that are fairly lengthy and detailed. They were sent to us on, I believe, April 22nd, and we will respond to those in writing, and we will do so well in advance of the June meeting so that everyone has a chance to digest them. Okay, let me before we get into the nuts and bolts of the application, I want to talk about our client, Mr. Arendt. His personal history is not relevant to the proposed regulated activities, but unfortunately, some of the neighbors have said he's a developer. They've called him something like an interloper, someone who doesn't care about the environment, and he has asked me to respond, which I want to do very briefly. Mr. Arendt grew up in Nichols, in an extended family of amateur naturalists who, among other things, have a multi-generational knowledge of Trumbull's flora and fauna and an appreciation of its natural environment. His family is related to the donors of Trumbull's Robert Beach Memorial Park. And as a child, Mr. Arendt spent a lot of time in the Pinewood Lake area in the company of cousins and very proudly his Boy Scout Troop 67. And at that time, he became familiar with the lake and what are now the lots 4 and 5 of West Misha Road. Mr. Arendt, by the way, is now in his mid-50s. Mr. Arendt is a former owner at Pinewood Lake on a lot on which, working with the Native Plant Trust, he planted thousands of native pollinators. So he is a longtime member of the Pinewood Lake Association. And it's important to understand that one of his reasons for purchasing lots 4 and 5 was to ensure that they would be developed in an environmentally sensitive way. Another purpose was to build a home for an elderly relative. And Mr. Arendt also informed me that when he bought lots 4 and 5 in 2012, various land trusts had the opportunity to buy these lots, but passed on that opportunity. And then educationally, Mr. Arendt has a degree in biology with a concentration in ecology, and he has a professional doctorate and has practiced and taught at Yale. So thank you for allowing me to share that background. Now, I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see that?
Well, we can see a black screen so far. Now, yes, now we can.
Okay, good. Thank you. So in 2012, when Mr. Arendt acquired these lots, the town planner confirmed at the time that lot 4, West Misha Road, also lot 5, is a building lot, and noting that a wetlands regulated activity permit might be needed for home construction. The property has sewer and water access, and in May of 2022, about 4 years ago this week, Mr. Arendt submitted wetlands applications to construct one single-family home on lot 4 and on lot 5, one on each lot. So it's important to understand here what is and is not a wetland on this property. So this is my own artwork, of which I'm very proud. Not really, but the pink is the wetland soil on the property. The watercourse, the intermittent watercourse that runs through the property, is the blue. The yellow represents the gas pipeline that encumbers the lower middle of the site. And then the white, particularly these two areas right here where I'm showing with the cursor, those are the non-wetland upland review areas where the construction is proposed. Important to remember that in 2022, there was quite a debate about the exact wetlands boundary, but that was ultimately settled by a consensus of no less than 4 soil scientists: Eric Davidson, Mr. Kenny on this call, Tyan Bond, and Dr. Danzer. So respectfully, there was a suggestion in the letter filed yesterday by the Southwest Conservation District that we reopen that discussion, and we are respectfully going to resist doing so because the line was a consensus of 4 different soil scientists. Now, the 2022 application for this lot, as you will recall, proposed 4,000 square feet of wetlands filling and also piping of part of the watercourse. And the site was very thoroughly studied by Tyan Bond, which issued memoranda in September 2022, summarizing, quote, existing conditions, wetland and soil classifications, habitat discussion, and an environmental assessment, unquote. And we gave you that in the original application materials in February of this year. And along with that, we gave you Mr. Kenny's 2022 memo summarizing the existing conditions and the wetland and watercourse functions. As you'll also remember, both applications were denied in November of 2022 and appealed to court. In February of 2024, the Lot 5 appeal was settled with approval of the Superior Court. So what is approved, this is the approved plan for Lot 5, and basically the proposed home was all out of the wetlands, but in settlement, Mr. Arendt agreed to move it further away from the wetlands boundaries, and very importantly, to install a bunch of perimeter protections. There's a boulder wall there, split rail fence, a couple of stone stairs on the, I guess would be the east side, northeast side of the proposed house, and agreed to a long set of enforcement conditions, including third-party monitoring during construction. And we gave you another copy of those approval conditions, pointing to the fact that we will agree to those same conditions as to the application before you tonight. So the important point is that Lot 5 is now approved as a building lot for a single-family home. Now, during this spring time last year, we had also a settlement discussion about Lot 4, but that was not successful. And so tonight, Mr. Arendt and the team are both responding to the 2022 denial reasons and the 2023 settlement discussion with a substantially revised plan. And the approach is to eliminate wetlands filling, watercourse piping, and any impacts. So remember, I showed you this on March 5th. This is not the model of the actual proposed home. This is just a concept of what is called a bridge house, where it is foundations on either side and a span of the wetland or the watercourse below, leaving room for the flow of the water, wildlife, any vegetation that would grow beneath it. So this is the concept of what is called a bridge house. And importantly, the idea here is that the foundations on either side are built in outside the wetlands in the non-wetland upland review area. Now, this is an elevation that we prepared for the Zoning Board of Appeals, which I'll get to in a minute, but this is the actual elevation. So on this left elevation, the left side would be what faces West Misha Road, and on the right side elevation, what you see would be what is also facing West Misha Road. Now, the proposed site plan, and this is an important point, in blue, that is the portion of the structure that would span the wetlands. It's approximately, Mr. Edwards may have a more exact figure than I do, it's about 400 square feet on a lot that's more than 1 acre. So not a large area, but again, the idea is this is what is spans the wetlands. As you'll hear in a little more detail, the only impact would be about 450 square feet of temporary wetland disturbance during construction, which would involve crossing the intermittent watercourse when the bed is dry. Only do it when the bed is dry with equipment to build the foundation on the south side. The north side foundation can be built obviously without access from West Misha Road, but without any impact on the watercourse. So a temporary basically crossing to construct the southernmost innermost foundation. Now, as an aside, this plan needs a front yard setback variance, as do dozens of homes around Pinewood Lake. Mr. Aaron applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals in March. That was heard on April 3rd. I'm going to say that we presented a clear basis for approval. The single-family home is in harmony with the neighborhood and the AA zone. And there's case law in Connecticut that says that where you have wetlands and a utility easement, that is a basis for asserting hardship. But the Zoning Board of Appeals denied that application on a 3-2 vote, and we took the only course that we could, which is to appeal that to Superior Court. And I will just say that that denial does not affect us from proceeding with this application. So otherwise, there's 3 points that we ask you to keep in mind. The first is that bridging a wetland is really not an unusual thing to do. In fact, in Trumbull, there is a precedent. This is an office park that is on, I believe it's pronounced Trefoil Road, and there's a bridge. If you can see my cursor, there's a bridge across a watercourse right here, which I can show you now in additional. So that was approved by this commission in 2018. And in the supplemental materials that we gave you last week, we gave you the minutes of February and March 2018 when this was approved. And it spans the wetlands. There's no direct impact on the watercourse. And obviously it's not an exact replica of what we're doing, but the idea is basically the same. So the first is just to bear in mind that what we're proposing in terms of spanning the wetlands is not unique to this site. Next matter is that there will be, by our count, 13 trees taken down. Only one is on a wetlands boundary, and none are in the watercourse. We believe there are hundreds of trees on Lot 4 existing, so relatively small amount. And in this plan set, sheet 5.1, we've given you we've marked out which trees, where they're located. You can see the wetlands line here, and that's the watercourse. The wetlands line is here. Mr. Kenny will go over this in more detail because my eyesight is failing me at that scale. But anyway, so then the last point we want you to bear in mind is that because there's no filling, there's no loss of wetlands, and we believe there's no adverse impact to any primary function of a wetland or watercourse, we've met the feasible and prudent alternative requirement. And I'd also note that this hearing was caused by a citizen petition, not a finding of significant impact. So that's another reason why feasible and prudent alternative analysis is not triggered. Before I turn it over to the development team, actually, I will stop sharing I can stop sharing my screen right now. The sidewalk was on March 25th. And as I said, we filed a supplemental response a day after that, where we went through several items. There is no proposed wetland dewatering, And we don't, based on the configuration of the work to be done, we don't believe there will be any resulting from or foundation drains or anything like that. We don't expect soil erosion under the bridge. The water source, the intermittent water course, will be unaffected. We confirmed that the water course is intermittent and that will not change. I pointed out to you that residential property maintenance and landscaping and also what is called conservation of vegetation in the statutes are not regulated by wetlands statutes or regulations. And I also noted that we had Mr. Kenny at that time update his wetland buffer and habitat plan, which he'll explain to you. So that's a different way of saying it's important to focus tonight on the March 26th plan revision, not the original February 2024 submission. I have to comment, there was a letter submitted by the Conservation Commission, which was very concerning to us as the applicant. The Conservation Commission held a meeting on March 27th, didn't give us any notice that they were going to be talking about the application, and they produced a letter that we respectfully believe has a lot of inaccurate information and unsupported speculation. And a copy of that is on file with you. I don't need to go through the details, but we were so concerned that we asked the Conservation Commission to retract that letter. Now, let me just take a minute to talk about Wetlands Commission jurisdiction. And I told you this on March 5th, but now we're on the record at a public hearing, so I need to repeat it. The law is in Connecticut that a Wetlands Commission cannot deny an application for a regulated activity without substantial evidence of an actual adverse impact on an existing function of a wetland or watercourse. On top of that, state law says that a Wetlands Commission, quote, shall not deny or condition an application for a regulated activity outside a wetland or watercourse on the basis of an impact or effect on aquatic, plant, or animal life, unless such activity will likely impact or affect the physical characteristics of the wetland or watercourse. I think you also know that evaluation of wetlands impacts requires expert testimony from such people as soil scientists and engineers. And another thing, and this is directly relevant to what the Conservation Commission said, every applicant is entitled to a legal presumption that they will follow their construction plan and carry out conditions of approval and maintenance obligations. In the Conservation Commission letter, they speculated about, well, what if the owner fills wetlands later on? Well, we don't assume that. And obviously that's not permitted, and you should make the assumption that if wetlands work is allowed in the upland review area, that the applicant will stick to the approved plan. So thank you for indulging me with those comments, and let me turn it over to Bill Kenny. You're muted, Bill.
Sure. Thank you, Tim. Good evening. I am Bill Kenny. I'm the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield, Connecticut. I am a professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect. Our firm has been involved with the project, involved with mapping and identifying the wetlands where they are, assessing their conditions, looking at all their broad range of existing ecological conditions, and then also working with the design team to develop a development for this property that is balanced between providing appropriate use with appropriate protections. So I'd like to just go through with you some of the finer points of the work that we've done on this. I'll start by discussing existing conditions. We'll focus on wetlands, but I also like to speak as well about some adjacent features, particularly like the watershed for the wetland on the site. I think it's important to understand that when you think about the wetland and how it functions and how a development might affect it or not. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. This is the town GIS system, and we see lot 4 outlined in the heavy red line, and you can see the other properties adjacent to it. Aerial photo from 2020. The property pitches from and it's a forested property. The canopy is essentially all native vegetation. The shrub layer has a significant amount of both native and non-native vegetation, and similar with the understory layer. In the northern portion of the property, you have both wetland and non-wetland areas, and then in the central portion of the property is a relatively large upland knoll, and then in the bottom southern corner of the property is a small forested wetland area. The property pitches generally from the east to the west, so all the water on the property goes east to west. I'm going to zoom out and just want although the immediately adjacent to the property and on the property, the drainage is east to west. Most of the water flowing through the property, particularly the wetland of concern, comes from land bordering Skyview Drive up to about Hillendale Terrace, about 1,000 feet north of the property. So the residences, about a dozen residences east and west of Skyview Terrace, they're generally the front yard of those properties, and the structures themselves drain towards Skyview, and that water drains down Skyview into some catch basins at the end at the intersection with West Misha Road, and likely some catch basins uphill of that as well, and then into the wetland. Also, a few hundred feet east of the property, water from West Misha Road and a few of the houses just north of West Misha Road, those properties drain down into those catch basins. Here's a street view from Google. We're looking west on West Misha, and the property is just to the left. It's a forested property on the left. If I turn to the right and look north, we're looking at Skyview, and you can look up Skyview. And so that road continues inclining up for about 1,000 feet. And you can see the catch basins to the left and to the right at the bottom that are connected to this catch basin that's in West Misha. And then that water from that catch basin discharges through an 18-inch culvert right here between these two wooden bollards. And if you look on the property survey that was submitted with Jason Edwards' drawings, you can see those catch basins. These are the two catch basins on Skyview and the catch basin just to the south on West Misha, and pipe comes out, and then the water discharges into the intermittent watercourse and the wetland that then flows through the property. If you zoom in and take a closer look, this, as I mentioned, and as you could see, the property is forested, but the wetland in the area of the proposed regulated activities, I believe it should be considered into two primary types of wetland. You have this area, which is sloping relatively steeply, and then you have this area, and that's an area to the east, in the northeastern corner of the property. And then you have the area immediately west of that, with which the wetland broadens and widens and is relatively level. There's some pitch to it still from east to west, but it's not sloping nearly as much as that wetland to the east. These physical features are very important, and when you take that in consideration with the size of the watershed that drains down through that 18-inch pipe that discharges from the road, this northeastern portion of the wetland, its primary function, sloping as it is, with the watershed it has, is surface water conveyance. There's also some groundwater discharge, but it is a more high and dry wetland. Its hydrologic conditions are more flashy. During and immediately after a storm, you get water moving through this area, particularly in the channel of the watercourse itself, but also occasionally either side of the channel through that wetland, and you get some groundwater discharge and a lot of surface water coming through that area. area immediately to the west that's relatively level, that's more of a wetter wetland that has the ability to actually pond surface water, where the other wetland area does not really pond any water to any meaningful measure. But in the other portion of the wetland, you're getting ponding for extended periods of time. And that affects the vegetative community and the topography, the microtopography, and creates a lot of more diversity in the ground surface, in the water conditions, which leads to a more diversity of the plant life, which then leads to more diversity of the animal life. So I believe this western part of the wetland is functioning at a higher level and better, slightly better quality than the wetland to the east. And this wetland to the west provides some flood detention, more flood detention because it's not sloping as much. It provides more water quality treatment because it holds water, allows the water to be cleaned. Suspended material can, when it's being held, the water's being held, suspended material has an opportunity to settle out. So it's provides a wider variety of functions at a higher level than the other area of wetland. There, the site itself is a 1 acre in size roughly. When the water leaves the site to the west, so it enters in the northeast and it leaves, it flows into what is known as Lot 5 that's owned by the applicant. And then that water leaves the southwest corner of that and flows out and flows to the northwest towards Pinewood Lake. And it flows under a relatively small culvert under West Misha Road before it leaves the site. So that's with regard to existing conditions, that's what my presentation is complete with regard to that.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Do you want to keep your slides up there for Jason? Do you want to work with Bill's slides, or do you want me to go to this slide? Jason Edwards, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find my screen.
Okay.
Can I just go ahead and share my own screen? Actually, it's a little easier for me to.
Yeah, sure.
Good evening. For the record, Jason Edwards, the principal of J. Edwards Associates. We're engineers and surveyors. We're located at 227 Stepney Road in Easton, Connecticut. I'm going to share my screen. Everybody see that?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah.
So much of my presentation was sort of touched on by the two people ahead of me here, Tim and Bill. But this, as they stated, it's a bridge design home. So we've got access via West Misha Road to the north, but the home will be have a garage, access via a short driveway that will be on the northwest side of the wetlands. That'll have a slab foundation. And there will be a second foundation on the southeast side of the wetlands. That'll be a basement foundation. And then the two foundations would be connected by a bridge structure that'll be 4 to 6 feet above the wetlands below. It's got a cantilever walkway that connects the two on the exterior, and then obviously there'll be an interior connection. The basement on this end, I think it's important to note, is really at a walkout condition, meaning that it's really at grade on this low end, and on the high end, it's only about 4 feet below grade. So it's not a deep excavation. It's really just fitting the natural grade that's there. The property serviced by public water and sewer. We do show connections there coming through from West Misha. As I said, there's a access point here from West Misha that would be a place to access to the homeowner to get in and out of their garage and provide a parking area. And then there's also a secondary parking area that would be constructed of permeable pavers to reduce the impervious area and impact on the stormwater. There is a catch basin proposed, the hooded catch basin proposed here, between the new driveway and the existing curb line. That would capture any runoff generated from the driveway, and it gets piped down through a short pipe and into a manhole, or a clean out, or is a manhole, and into the detention system, a retention system. We do have test holes that we've dug here. We've designed this previously with review of the town engineer. They've had new comments now that we have yet to address. So some of this design elements will be changing most likely, but we'll resubmit that prior to the next meeting. There will be a temporary wetlands disturbance to get access across this wetland here, to get to the rear of it, to install or to construct to excavate and construct the eastern side of the building. You have the foundation here. They're going to need to get equipment and materials across that. So we have a proposed, we're calling a timber construction mats on grade. Those will be laid down with a steel plate over the actual watercourse here. So this will provide a temporary access, and that'll be fully restored afterwards. I think Mr. Kenny's got a plan included for restoration of that in his planting plans. We do also have a stockpile area over here, as well as dewatering, and this is all surrounded by double rows of silt fences. We have a stockpile area on the north side as well, anti-tracking aprons, dewatering areas, and double row silt fence as well. Again, we do have a stormwater management system here designed that was reviewed previously by the town engineer and now is in review again. So, but it does meet DEP criteria and guidelines. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes for a second here. We did include, as Attorney Hollister indicated, we did include a tree removal plan. This is the existing trees. The final sheet in our set, I believe, has we have a tree removal plan on sheet 5.1 that shows what trees will we think will be removed as part of this. It's fairly few relative to the entire size of this site. There's hundreds more trees out here. And we did consider some other alternatives for this site as far as what could be constructed here. And this seemed to be the best and least impactful of the options. It doesn't have direct wetlands impact from the home itself. We're not, we're staying clear of the wetlands with the exception of the temporary access across. And in all, I think this will be the best approach for this, and I don't think we'll have any adverse impacts to the wetlands due to the stormwater. I think that's it for my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Bill, you're back up.
One second, please. Bill Kenny again, and I'd like to now just review with you the project design as it relates to potential impacts to the wetlands, and based on my professional opinion as a wetland scientist, soil scientist. First, I'd like to, and when we conduct an assessment like this, the potential for impacts, we look at what we consider short-term impacts, and they would be during construction, short-term meaning during construction, and what we characterize as direct, and that would be work actually within the wetland, or indirect work outside of the wetland that may have an effect on the wetland. And similarly, we look at long-term impacts. Once this, if this were to be approved, that once the construction is done, what's the impact to the wetland at the end of that construction? And again, direct activity that is in a wetland and indirect activities that are nearby that could affect the wetland. And I probably dive into the real details of that. I do want to say that it is my opinion that this project has minimized activities in the wetland to the greatest activities that might affect the wetland to the greatest extent possible in all the years, many, many years of decades of doing projects like this. This is one of the most innovative, and as far as an applicant goes, working with an owner like this is appreciative, and to have someone this creative and willing to work this hard to find a solution that really preserves the resources on the property to the greatest extent practicable. And starting, if you just look at the overall planning, ways to reduce potential impacts are first, a very small footprint of disturbance. This development is limited just to the most northern portion of the property. You see the footprint of the development in the rear portion, the wetland that is the highest value, no activities in that, and then this forested knoll, which is that upland immediately adjacent to wetland, offers a lot of value, and the wetland in the back far removed. So if you tried to put a development in the southern end on that upland area is steeply sloping, you have a gas line through there, the amount of disturbance would be much more. So just from that alone, I just want to quickly take a moment. You look at the developed yard here. This the applicant is proposing something that provides the absolute minimum for a residential property. You need a dwelling, you need shelter, so they're providing a very modest shelter, and access, a very modest driveway, and then the various mitigation measures such as stormwater treatment and planting and so forth. Lastly, a very enough yard for some minimal passive and low intensity activity. So no sports courts, no pools, no large lacrosse or soccer field type things. And it's not uncommon either in the neighborhood when you look at some of the properties that are immediately to the northwest. Now, it'd be great for some people to have a very large yard to use, but it's not uncommon to see people work with what they have. And the footprint of development for this project is very similar to the properties at 27, 29, 33, 35 Pinewood Trail. So I think it is reasonable to have a property like this and be able to enjoy it without expanding and causing issues beyond your developed footprint. Now, so getting more into the details, in the short term, there is direct impacts with that temporary crossing. So that crossing is very narrow, just enough to get a machine across across that wetland to the southern portion of the house where the foundation would be installed. And there wouldn't be, sometimes you do a crossing where you lay down fabric and then crushed stone. That requires a lot more disturbance and earthwork. This is proposed to be laying down these wood log blankets that sit right on the surface. There's going to be squishing of vegetation and things like that, but for the most part, the soil is, the weight is distributed with these mats so that the soil does not get significant compaction. And then you just put a steel plate across the watercourse, and during a period of all this work, this crossing work would occur during a dry part of the year where there's not active flow of water except for a storm event moving through that area. So there will be a temporary disturbance for that in 400 to 500 square feet. And but that's the direct and short term. And then Indirect in the short term, we have standard soil erosion and sediment controls. Another benefit of having a small footprint of development is that it allows you to be able to control soil erosion and sedimentation much more easily. And the construction site, although sloping, it's not particularly steep. So it's very small, and sloping, but not significantly sloping. So standard soil erosion and sediment controls, I believe, will provide adequate protection to keep sediment out of the wetlands that border the construction site. And in the long term, the direct activities within the wetland. So with this innovative design with a bridge house, we're avoiding constructing in the wetland, which was previously proposed and resulted in over 4,000 square feet of excavation in the wetland. That is not occurring with this. So we have a bridge design that the span between each foundation to the north of the wetland and to the south of the wetland, I think it's about 40 feet long. And on the north side, the clearance is 3 to 4 feet tall across that 40-foot width. And on the south side, it's 6, 7 feet tall because the land does slope down. So that land will not be graded beneath the building, and the channel won't be altered. There'll certainly be cutting of a tree that was discussed, and shrubs and things like that, and shrubs and smaller plants. Well, ground cover, there's no need to disturb that. And because of the hydrologic conditions of this wetland, as I discussed, that most of the water that's feeding this wetland is coming from offsite. Some rainwater certainly falls on this wetland. Some mitigating factors to consider is that what you're most concerned with the wetland health and water source to the wetland is during the growing season. And that's when the plants are growing and needing water. And in a forest like this, this wetland does some abundance of the rainwater for the small frequent storms really never even, often doesn't even reach the soil surface because the forest canopy intercepts that water. And so the vast majority of water feeding this wetland is coming from offsite and flowing through the watercourse and through the ground from the east to the west and passing through. So the bridge over that area will cause that wetland area to be drier, but not, I think that for the most part, its moisture condition will be substantially the same as it is today due to the watershed and the other conditions that I discussed. So that being said, and because this house is positioned across the wetland that is steeply sloping and its primary function is water conveyance, and so the house is not situated in the higher quality wetland area to the west. For all those reasons, I think that this design will maintain the primary functions of this wetland. The wetland will change. There will be some adverse effects to the vegetative cover, but overall, this wetland, the primary functions of the wetland in this area will continue as they do today. And so then I'd like to now talk about the potential for indirect impacts, which are more traditional impacts that we discuss with development projects. And that has to do with primarily with stormwater management, particularly because a helpful feature with this development is that this property is served by public sewer. So if there was a on-site septic system required, that would be a very challenging situation, but that is not needed here. And so sewage treatment or sewage management is not a wetland issue on this property because the sewer line for the house will be connected to the public sewer in West Gloucester Road. So then our primary thing to focus on is stormwater runoff. And stepping back again to the very limited size of development, when you have, because water quality, water management, there's two sides to the coin. One is how does your development change that runoff condition, the quality and quality of that. And so the smaller your footprint, the less effect you have on water just by definition alone. So regardless of your BMPs, for example, this property ends up with about 9% proposed impervious cover. And most of that is a building roof, which is relatively clean compared to the driveway. And decades and decades of research, studies done throughout the country and around the world in different areas have shown that if you maintain an impervious cover below about 11%, 10, 11, 12%, then just by that alone, what they find in watersheds with impervious cover at those levels, that the water quality in streams is maintained and is healthy enough to maintain a good population of aquatic organisms and healthy water, good water quality. So just by the project, by its very small size, it's going to have a very low effect on the quality of water from the site, and it can be argued that it will not adversely affect the watercourse or the wetlands just because it's so small. But nonetheless, even though it's very small, the proposed stormwater management system is proposed, and it includes collecting stormwater runoff from the driveway and from the roof of the building, collecting that and treating it and slowly releasing it primarily back into the ground through subsurface recharge chamber, and having that make its way slowly back to the wetland. And so by doing that, that water is being cleaned, and also temperature is being controlled, it's being cooled. And so it's overall relatively clean to begin with, but then we're cleaning it further and helping to ensure that there's little to no change to the wetland from the stormwater runoff on the property based on the BMPs and the size of the development. Lastly, we are proposing a wetland and buffer habitat management plan, and that's the drawing we're looking at here. This shows proposed shrub plantings and tree plantings, both in the wetland and adjacent to the wetland. In addition, it specifies the activities to control invasive vegetation. The drawing includes a plan view, installation details for plants both in and adjacent to the wetland. Also, there's specifications for how the work should be carried out, primarily the invasive vegetation management. You'll notice there's methods. The top 60% of the specifications deals with methods, and the bottom 40% deals with the sequence. And it calls for 3 years of intensive management with monitoring and reporting. An annual report would be submitted to the town in November of each year to discuss what's succeeding, what maybe needs to be changed to enhance that success. And then there is a long-term beyond those 3 years. And I just noticed a typo on my drawing, but need to change the word 1 to 3 there. And basically annually, very lightly manage this, and walk through the property, and if there's invasive vegetation that's becoming more prominent, that you go through and take action to remove that and don't allow it to become a dominant species, and basically keep it under 20% of its cover type, whether it be ground cover, shrubs, and trees. So also with the habitat management plan, we are proposing some demarcation features that follow the boundary of the small yard areas and then the wetland immediately adjacent to the wetland. So we're proposing split rail fence in some areas, as well as these low retaining walls to provide a demarcation feature so that it's clear to the property owner, clear to people walking by or the town. If you're doing enforcement, you're driving through the neighborhood, you can see these features and see if there's anything that concerns you. And again, we based on comments from the agency at the previous meeting, we added 7 trees to the wetland planting. We also pulled back the wall on the west side here to allow for migration of movement of turtles if they want to move north, although I would suggest perhaps we don't want them up into the road, but we did pull back the wall to address a comment regarding that. And that's the end of my presentation for this.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Just to finish up our presentation, you have received or will receive a number of letters from neighboring property owners, and although they haven't been read or presented yet, I do want to call out 2 points. One of them called for a smaller dwelling as an alternative. First, I want to point out that Trumbull's AA zone regulation has a minimum floor area regulation of 1,200 square feet for the first floor, and we are just above that. So there was a suggestion, why can't you just build a small seasonal cabin? Well, the answer is that the zoning regulations do not allow that. We were at the Zoning Board of Appeals, one of the concerns, I think is actually a denial reason, was we should install a seasonal cabin parallel to West Misha Road. That is not physically possible, engineering possible, or legally possible. So we cannot do that. But there was one point of agreement. You received a memo from, I believe it's 36 residents, 19 households, and they said that if the commission grants a permit, it should be approved with clear dates for construction, a clear list of follow-up actions, monitoring by neutral third parties, and rigorous enforcement. We agree. We completely agree. And we agreed to all of those on Lot 5, and we agreed to them here. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and members, for hearing us out tonight. Remember, this is our 4th appearance. We're hoping we can wrap this up at the next meeting on June 4th. You have our commitment. The main thing we need to work on is a response to the engineering comments from Mr. Maurer and Ms. Solovey, which we will commit to do by, I'm going to say, May 17th, which is 10 days from now. And Mr. Chairman, this is just a request. If you could ask, does anybody else on the commission or in the public that wishes to comment, if those final responses or concerns could be made known by the 24th of May, which is about 10 days before the final hearing date, then we'd all have an opportunity to review them in advance. What I'm trying to avoid, obviously, is substantive things that come up for the first time on June 4th, and then we spill over into July, which hopefully is not necessary. So that is what we have to present, Mr. Chairman. And again, I thank you all for your patience.
All right. Thank you, Counselor. My thoughts are, rather than go with comments from the commission, what if we open this up to the public to hear what their thoughts are? And then as you're gargled again, John. What?
Can't we submit a few comments before we close this meeting from the
We're not going to close the meeting. We're going to come
itself?
back to the commission. I just thought we would go to the public to hear what their thoughts are
Yeah,
and
before
maybe
the
give
next
us some
meeting, though,
ideas.
so they come
Pardon?
back with the right stuff.
I
Make
didn't
sure
hear
they
you
come
again,
back with
John.
the right stuff.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I think Commissioner Loria was stating that he wanted to provide information prior to the next meeting so that the applicant could respond to it. And we could
Am I
do that.
better without the video? Am
I'm
I
sorry,
better
Commissioner.
without the video? Am I better without the video?
Yeah, slightly better.
Either way is fine, but
Okay.
I'm able to hear what you said, and I think Attorney Hollister can correct me if I'm wrong, is he also invited if commissioners had specific things they wanted addressed, they can, he's asking that we provide those by May 24th, and we could do that through staff. Obviously, you can't contact the applicant. But
Correct.
you can contact Tatiana or.
Yeah, you'll recall we had the same conversation at the end of the April 2nd meeting, and we didn't get anything, but obviously we hope to get it in time that we can respond.
Correct. But you have engineering comments, which you are responding to, and certain things you have responded to this as well.
That's
But
correct.
if there are other specific concerns, Commissioner Loria or other commissioners, you would have the opportunity outside of the meeting tonight to provide those to staff, and then staff can get them to the applicant prior to the next meeting. So for some reason,
these would be quick. Okay.
What was that, John?
I said we should just go over a few quickly.
if you want to say something tonight, you are, of course, that's up to the chairman, and I will now turn that back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, well, my thoughts are, let's go to the public. Let them have their say, see what their thoughts are. It might just spark, an idea that we didn't come up with, something like that. And I'll come back to the commission. But most important, after the meeting's over and you come up with thoughts, get them into the engineering department as quick as possible so that we're not doing this last moment out of courtesy. All right. So at this point, I don't see Mr. Chin or if John can handle it, but let's open it to the public. Is there anyone that wishes to speak?
I'm bringing on Louise Perkins.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Louise Perkins. I live at 58 Old Dyke Road. I want to thank the commissioners for their time in reviewing this application and all of the applications. And I want to speak with you tonight on two things. One is the letter from the 36 Trumbull residents that was submitted. In addition to the comment that Attorney Hollister highlighted about illuminating our concerns regarding what I'll describe as strict follow-up, if there are conditional approvals, to please include clearly stated dates for completion, follow-up actions, monitoring by neutral third parties, and rigorous enforcement. I would also just like to add that the residents who signed on to this letter also expressed our strong opposition to this application, and urged the Inland Wetlands Commission to retain third-party experts who can comment on the adverse impacts that the proposed activity will have on the intermittent watercourse, wetlands, and upland review area. I delineated some of those things that are of particular concern. The tree removal is one of particular concern because while there are 13 trees of 10 inches or more diameter at breast height shown as being removed, there are, of course, many other small trees that will be removed for the construction of the house, the installation of the driveway. And those are in the upland review area and are of concern to all of us. The last thing is the bridge house design. While an innovative structure, it will no doubt have exert a change in the light and rainfall and disturb the wetlands and watercourse beneath it. So that was the substance of our comments in the rest of the letter that the 36 of us signed on to. The other, I'll stop with that and then just switch gears and talk about my own letter, which I submitted to the commission on May 4th. And if I may, I would like to share my screen. I'm writing this letter as a concerned resident and also as someone who's deeply concerned with the preservation of our Trumbull's dwindling wetlands. And I also recently completed the Deep Municipal Inland Wetlands Comprehensive Training Program because I wanted to see what was being requested and required of you as commissioners. So in considering all of that, I do urge you to deny this application, but of course, third-party expert review is important. Tree removal on this site, if I can share. Is indicated on this map on the right-hand side, which I've further enhanced with these gray blobs to give an impression of what might happen to the canopy, the tree canopy, when all of the work is done. And that canopy in a summer of 2019 aerial photograph is shown here. Mr. Kenny remarked on how dense that canopy is and its role in rainfall interception just this evening. But I think it is worth considering that in this upland review area, all of the water that's no longer being intercepted may well flow into the wetland, increasing flooding through the wetland and effects downstream, indeed, on the rest of the wetland on this property. So with that being said, just to complete my comments, the other part that I really want to emphasize is that we often talk about the intermittent watercourse, and it makes it sound, because it is defined as an intermittent watercourse, it makes it sound as if it is somehow inferior or unimportant. But as anyone who has seen this site after a heavy rainstorm knows, this watercourse is providing a vital function in conveying water, and it deserves robust protection, as the rest of our wetlands do. The final comment I want to make, and again, I'll share my screen again, is regarding the bridge design, which is, of course, interesting and unique. But Commissioner Varespi mentioned in one of the earlier meetings that what might come to pass is something that looks a little bit like what is beneath the structures along in the Merit 7 complex. I used to work in a building near there, which is actually 383 Main Avenue. And beneath the garage at 383 Main Avenue, after this meeting, I took this picture. So you can see there's plenty of light, but there's zero rainfall, there's zero plant growth. I don't know. I can't say that they don't do something to inhibit plant growth here, but I do question whether a structure as wide and as long as is proposed would actually support any plant life, and whether in the absence of such plant life, whether there would be enhanced erosion. So I would just wrap up by saying that an overarching tenet of Trumbull's inland wetlands regulations is to, quote, balance the need for the economic growth of the state and the use of its land with the need to protect its environment and ecology. It's clear that you all work to do that quite diligently. However, the disturbances proposed in this application will result in benefit that heavily favors the property owner without an appropriate counter benefit to the public. And so, given the circumstances of this parcel and the activities proposed, I urge the Inland Wetlands Commission to deny this application as presented. Thank you for your attention.
All right, good night. Thank you. Okay. John, do we have
Yes, I'm bringing on Owen Bradley.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Bradley, if you can introduce yourself and give us your address.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Owen Bradley, and I live on 19 West Misha Road, which abuts the property as you look at from the street to the left. And I have like several concerns. The first concern I think I want to talk about is I have witnessed the property for several years, and I do not believe it is an intermittent water stream, or it's not intermittent. It's there all the time, and I know that because I live there next door. So I do not believe that it's intermittent. I believe it's a waterway that is there all the time. Just last week or two, I have gotten information from Aquarian saying that we need to reduce our water consumption. There's places all over the whole country that has issues with water, but this is not intermittent. I want to make that perfectly clear. I also want to know about how they're going to mitigate circumstances with their construction process. Are they going to use fertilizers with their surrounding landscape? Or do they need a sump pump? Like if they're going to build a house, where is a sump pump going to go? Because their sewer pipe is going to be above the elevation of the house because it's going to be a raised house. So I want to know where that's going to go. Is it going to be pumped back into the sewer? Because some towns, I believe, don't allow sump pumps to be diverted into the town sewer. Also, construction materials. Are they going to be permitted to use construction materials for a deck that have contaminants? Are they going to be pressure treated wood? Are they going to be allowed to use that? That's also a concern. And then when they bring in construction vehicles onto the site, how are they going to mitigate or make sure to prevent any soil erosion while they're bringing those construction vehicles onto the site? Are they going to have, is my property going to be compromised? Because also, I want to know if they're going to build a retaining wall. Because my site is a little bit uphill, but I want to know, how are they going to contain their property where it's not going to affect my property just right, which it abuts the site. That's property. They're lot number 4. I'm 19 West Misha Road. And then I want to know, if they're going to need an ejection pump for sewage, for their bathrooms, showers, laundry. If they need an ejection pump, where is that going to go? Is it going to be a dry well, or is it going to go back into the sewer system? These are all questions that I want to ask. I'm sorry, I've got a long list of questions. And I also disagree with the wetlands map. I don't agree with that. I think that that it is wetlands, and also that there is a constant flow of water that goes into that area. There is that vegetation that's indigenous to that area. There is some vegetation that's not indigenous, but we're going to lose all those beautiful trees. I'm also concerned about that. But mainly I'm concerned about the water. I'm concerned about how they're going to mitigate any water that comes into the house. I want to make sure that they have no materials that are going to compromise the water content, like pressure treated wood, any materials that go in to construction of the house. I don't want that to happen because all that water goes into the Nichols or into the lake, and then it goes into the America's waters, which is protected as far as I know. So I just want to make sure also that they don't use in the future like pressure treated wood that's going to go into fencing, like for decks. I don't want them putting in any like spa tubs outside that could potentially affect also the wildlife in the area of the water quality. And I don't want any materials that are used in the house that could also affect any. It's all about water quality. Like that shouldn't be happening. So I just want to make perfectly clear that it is not an intermittent waterway. It is waterway all the time. I've lived there. So these people who come out and say that they've done studies and stuff like that, no, I disagree. I think it's not an intermittent waterway. I believe it is a waterway that is very beneficial to the area, to our plants, to the lake, and to the sound, because the waterway that goes to the lake goes into the Long Island Sound. And also, you know what? I want to bring up my kids to see those trees that are still there, that has been there for 100, 200 years. And that's the way I want my kids to grow up. Ultimately, I just don't want contamination of the area. And I think that developing a new site there, I think there needs to be more evaluation about it. I don't agree with it, and I strongly object. And my name is Owen Bradley. I live in West Misha Road, 19, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. John?
I'm promoting a Jeff Shake.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jeff Shake. I live at 375 Booth Hill Road. My property directly abrupts the lot we're discussing tonight, and I'm also one of the larger landowners that abrupts this, along with Owen next door to us. And I also agree that he brings up a good point that this waterway is always flowing. The only time that I've seen it in the 12 years that I've lived here dry up was 2 years ago in the summer when we had that really bad drought that everyone's grass burnt out, and even my Pachysandra is still recovering from right now. So I just thought that that was a really good point that he had there too. And considering the water flow doesn't all happen from Skyview, it actually happens from the hillside that Owen's property and my property have too, and including what used to be tennis courts that he uses as gardens. There's a lot of water that comes off of that as well. That wasn't mentioned in the presentation, and I think that that should also be put under consideration. Just something to think about. And lastly, just with the water situation, I took some photographs. It was about 2 months ago. I've had to switch phones because my phone got lost on the city subway. But I had pictures that I had taken after we had 2 inches of rain, and all the wetlands was completely flooded way back until you started to get to the incline that came up to the back of my property towards the gas line. And it's a sponge, you know, it's there to protect and to absorb and to mitigate water later on. And the main point that I wanted to bring up about with the water is that the town spent a lot of time and money re-engineering the water flow that comes out of Pinewood Lake, which is also part of this water system that we're talking with now, and to try and solve the water issues that we were having at Twin Brooks Park. And just 2 months ago, it was flooded again. And there was all kinds of issues that are happening that we're trying, you know, our town and everybody are trying to re-engineer, and it's still not working. And we're still having problems. And that's just one of my biggest concerns, because with the things with the climate has just been changing. Seasons aren't happening when they used to happen. Farmers can't plant and grow when they expect to grow. We're not having our normal snowfalls. We're having all these excessive rains. 6 years ago, we had, what was it, 7 inches of rain in like 3 hours. I remember Booth Hill Road was completely covered with water up to me because the property across the street on Booth Hill, the culvert couldn't handle all the water, and the water came up over the road 8 feet onto my property. And it just, you know, we're seeing more and more of these 50-year storms, 100-year storms, 1,000-year storms every 5-10 years. And I have a background in architecture. I went to RISD. I'm a designer. My studio overlooks the back of the area that we're talking about. I see everything every day. And it's an impressive building. I mean, I'm not just, you know, someone that doesn't understand the plans or topography or map making or anything like that. And I'm just concerned that, you know, is this really engineered to withstand stuff that maybe hasn't been considered, that we're not making the correct models to have this properly built? And how is that going to affect the homeowner when they buy this? How is it going to affect the insurance? How is it going to affect the resale value? Besides the fact of, you know, everything that, you know, all the other neighbors and everybody had been advocating for with, you know, the wildlife. Once you do it, you can't undo it, and those kinds of things. So I just want you guys to please really take a conscientious look as to what our planning and zonings are for wetlands, why this was denied to begin with, and to really consider, is this the best move for the town, the homeowner? Are we really setting ourselves up to fail just to appease, you know, some issues that happened because things weren't, you know, done how, you know, other people would have liked or thought it was going to happen or not happen? Please pause. Please think about it seriously. Obviously, you know where I stand. I'm against it, but I don't know how much weight that really pulls. But I just want you guys to really think about it. Please. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shake.
I'm promoting a Rob Telep.
Thank you to the commission for taking the time to listen. Robert Tellup, 373 Booth Hill Road, adjacent property to lot number 5, and I believe partial of lot number 4. Obviously disappointed with the decision on lot number 5. Tonight, there's a few points brought up by a lot of the neighboring folks here. They were, you know, very relevant, but not to, you know, continue on down their road. But one of the things that was pointed out by Mr. Kenny multiple times, and I want everybody to, you know, pay attention to this, because I wrote notes down this. It was noted the water flows from east to west, and after the west comes Pinewood Lake. I've been fortunate to be a lifelong resident of Pinewood Lake Association. The concern is we have a lot of sediment that comes into Pinewood Lake. It's been more and more in recent years. Has to be doing with overdevelopment. We have a lot of development coming on the north end of the lake, but now it's coming in from the southern end of the lake. And also with lot 4 and 5, and especially lot number 5 being approved for development, now I'm concerned more and more the south end of the lake will become more and more relevant for dredging. If we move forward with removing more of the canopy, as Mr. Kenny says, 13 trees coming down, we're building an impervious surface with the driveway, with the roof line. It's hitting our water course. It's not an intermittent water course. It's an active water course. It's always running this stream. I have not seen it dried up ever. It's always running. And all this sediment is continuously running into the lake. And, we generally, as a member of the Lake Association, we're planning 17 to 20 years of dredging. And now it's coming down to 12 to 15 years of dredging because of this excessive building all over town. So, I mean, with these 2 other lots being developed and approved, now we're looking at the 8 to 10 year level of dredging. I just don't know. But what I do know is when we do disturb wetlands, the water course is definitely being disturbed. Further on, to build the bridge housing, how are we going to capture the construction debris, the oil from any of the equipment, pressure treated wood, fertilization, any lawns that are being put in? This is all going to get captured into the waterway. Let's think big picture. I mean, these properties were really not meant to be developed. We can talk about the engineering all the time. We can talk about different laws out there, but we're only really hurting what's happening downstream. Downstream is Pinewood Lake. Downstream from that is Twin Brooks, and we're hitting Long Island Sound after that. So, I strongly urge you to make the correct decision, Commission, and deny this application for lot number 4. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tellep.
And promoting Richard Ruby.
Are you with us, Dr. Ruby?
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. I'd like to thank the IWW.
Firstly, Dr. Ruby, you have to introduce yourself and give
Oh,
your
okay.
address, please.
Okay, Dr. Richard Ruby, 76 Old Dyke Road.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the IWWC commissioners for having this public hearing this evening. As you all know, the wetlands and the riparian buffer are both needed to maintain the health of this extremely important and fragile ecosystem. It is this interdependence that I would like to address. On the front piece of property, adjacent to the road, the proposed plan would remove 9 mature trees and innumerable smaller shrubs and their stumps to replace this with pavement, a garage, and a filtration system. This would completely eliminate the riparian buffer, except what's put back in a very engineered way. This will eventually have an effect on the wetlands. So even though you stayed out of the wetlands, you're going to impact it. On the back piece of property, the proposed plan would remove 4 mature trees and their stumps. One of these trees appears to be a 5-trunk codominant tree, which would make the count of trees removed 8. They are shown as nice round circles on the map, but that fails to show the extent of disturbance that the removal of the stumps would have. Several of these trees are right on the border or very close to the border. Removing the stump is clearly going to go beyond and into the wetlands. The outline of the house is the outline of the house, but it doesn't show the measure of disturbance. The hole you dig is going to be significantly bigger than the outline of the finished house. There's no reference to that at all on your plans. And again, the riparian buffer is completely eliminated on that piece of land, except for, again, your engineered planting plan that you put back in, which completely surrounds the house. And I can only foresee the future homeowner periodically removing plantings as needed repairs or maintenance of the building will require direct access and be impeded by this engineered plan that you have in place. As with the front section, the riparian buffer in this back section will be lost or substantially reduced because of the digging for the foundation and the bridging over it. I'd like to thank the commissioners for listening, and I hope your decision will reflect the regard for the riparian buffer in this fragile ecosystem. The literature is filled with references to the value of the first 20 plus feet of a functioning riparian buffer, which will be eliminated completely in this plan. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Ruby.
I'm promoting Janet Epstein.
You're muted. Ms. Epstein, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Raise your volume.
We're not hearing you. I believe she's with Dr. Ruby, I believe, but some reason we're not able to hear you. Can you utilize? No.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we see if there's anyone else who wishes to
I was
speak?
just exactly was just gonna say, Ms. Epstein, we're going to go to someone else. In the meantime, see if you can work on that or maybe work with what Dr. Ruby was using, okay? John.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not seeing anyone else who wishes to speak at this time.
So we're good?
If anyone wishes to speak, please hit *9 on the phone, or you can use the raised hand icon at the bottom of your screen. At least it's on the bottom of my screen. I'm not seeing anyone else at this time, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Epstein, we are going to, we do have, I think Mr. Bradley wishes to be heard again. Okay.
Yeah, promoted him.
Can you open it?
Ms. Epstein,
Miss Epstein, at the bottom left-hand corner of your audio control, if you click on the little caret icon, you'll be able to switch to phone audio. That will pop up a phone number that you can call, and that will act as your speaker.
Bill?
Oh. And Ms. Epstein, if I know this is frustrating, and one of the downsides of, there are many benefits to the remote virtual meeting, but this once in a great while is the issue. Please know the hearing is going to be kept open, so you will be able to make a comment at the June 4th meeting. Hopefully we can resolve the issue.
All right, let's go with Mr. Bradley again. Did you have any additional information, Mr. Bradley? Oh, I think at this point, we're going to go to the commission and for comments so we can move the meeting along. Personally,
excuse me, sir. Can you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Just
Just introduce yourself again for the record, if you would.
Yes, of course. My name is Owen Bradley from 19 West Misha Road. And for my job qualifications, I say that I'm a home inspector.
All right. So did you have anything additional?
Yes, sir. I was also wondering about how they're going to mitigate any construction going for the driveway. And also I had another question. Was it denied if their application was put in place for the setback for the house? Like they had a previous application that it has for like a 12-foot setback or a 15 setback, but Trumbull suggested or has in place for like a 20 or 25-foot setback. Is that the case?
Right now, our purview is wetlands. That is a planning and zoning issue. So right now we are to determine how this affects wetlands and you know what the outcome will be. So
okay, so I will follow up with that question, is because if that's the case, then why are we having this conversation? Because if it hasn't already been approved for the setback, then it completely changes the application.
okay, Mr. Bradley, I'm going to Attorney Cordone, will you address this really quickly for me?
Yes,
Thank you.
I will answer your question, Mr. Bradley. So the applicant filed for a variance to allow the house to be built with a shorter setback. That was denied, as you stated, but there's an appeal pending. And so the outcome of that is still to be determined. So the applicant still has a right for a decision on the impact of the wetlands. So that's what's before this board.
Okay, I agree with that. But then this whole conversation and this whole meeting is meaningless because we can't, the Wetlands Commission can't approve anything if that has not been accepted. So then this whole conversation is mute because if it has not been accepted, then the Wetlands Commission needs to do a whole new review. So this whole conversation is muted. So we need to come back again and have a whole new review because it has not been accepted. So you guys need to go and do your homework again and absolutely resolve the situation about the step back on the property line. And then the Wetlands Commission needs to do a whole new review again. So what's going on?
Attorney Cordone.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your comments, Mr. Bradley. There's a possibility that a court could decide that their setback is approved. So that's where we are right now.
Yeah, but no, excuse me. Because there can't be no review. There can't be no acceptance. Either they accept the review that the step back on the property is approved, because otherwise the Wetlands Commission, their review is null and void. So this whole meeting is a farce. So either you guys get it in fucking involved, and I'm sorry, excuse my language, but no, this whole review is a farce. Get it sorted. Either they get approved for a 9-foot setback or a 12-foot setback, and then we'll come back and do it again.
Okay, we appreciate your comments. Thank you, Mr. Bradley.
And I apologize that I said that bad
All right,
word.
thank you. All right, I see Ms. Epstein is still there. Have you cured your problem of being able to speak? No, we're still not hearing you. Okay, I know you're on the record previously, and we will be doing a public hearing next month, so we'll let you voice your thoughts then, okay? All right, thank you. No one else, right, John?
There is
Or
one more
Bill?
person.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see a Jim G. If you can identify yourself and give the address, please, ma'am.
Me? Are you talking to me?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes, my name is Sarah Layden, Laden. I live at 55 Old Sawmill Road. Everybody else has expressed much of that I want to say, but I just want to say I walk daily around the neighborhood, and I just want to add that I never see it without water. It's always got water, and also the road there is very narrow. It's not a regular road. So I don't know what else could be exacerbated by having such a narrow road for such a project. That's it.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, is there anyone else, Mr. Chen? I can't see to see if there's anybody else. If there isn't, let's go to the commission then.
With the chair?
All right, first, yeah, well, first, is there any comments from you, Bill?
No comments from Timmy.
Okay, and John Mayer, that's our two engineers. I want to get that on. You're both good?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mr.
Commissioner.
Chairman, Mr. Tilep has his hand raised. If you would like
All right.
to bring him in.
Okay, I'll bring him in.
If he doesn't come on in a moment,
Yeah,
we're going to move to the commissioners.
He declined to
All right.
join.
All right. We're open to the commission now. Comments? Go ahead, David. You're muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear you. I'll be quick. Go ahead.
Did you want to talk, John?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
I'll just be quick. And just some input for Mr. Kenny and Mr. Edwards. And I'm looking at the design, and in the construction phase, I noticed that they're building their ramps and their staging to the, if we were looking at the map, to one side of the project, let's say. I'm looking on the road inward to the left side. couldn't that staging be done directly where the house is going to be, so that the impact would be only on those areas that would be covered in the future when any sunlight? Then I also would like to know, you have to dig some footings. How many footings are you going to dig? To what depth? What's the water table there? One thing you'd have to be worried about with a bridge design is the bridge buckle and turn over. And then it would have to be repaired, and that would be further damage to the watercourse. The other comment I'd like to make that I think be incorporated, I see in the front of the house, you have like a deck that you can walk from the front yard to the backyard, and it goes along with the bridge. Could such a structure also be put on the other side? It might require a railing. So I can foresee people not only just coming up to that front step ramp that you're showing on your plans, but also wanting to walk through the water course itself to get from the front yard to the back. So I think the decking should be extended on that side of the house as well, which is also would help with repair. These are just my ideas. But I'd like those to be considered in our next meeting. Do you have any questions for me, or was that clear?
Oh, that's good, John.
Okay, I'm done.
All right, and I believe, David, you had your hand up?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
First, I'd like to say excellent presentation by Mr. Hollister and Mr. Kenny. Very professional. We appreciate all the work that you've done. There were a couple comments that came out of the neighbors' comments that I think should be included into the presentation and the plan. One is a staging plan. I know there was shown a topsoil stockpile area, but the neighbors did bring up a very salient point of contractor parking. Anytime you build a house, there's a lot of contractors that come around, and they tend not to pay attention to where you say to park. They move fences, they kind of figure out where they want to park on their own. So a specific parking plan will need to be provided for this project, given the tight area that we're working with here. Mr. Kenny, can you give us some sense of a time frame when this restored crossing area would be returned to its previous function? Sort of bounce back? Is that a 1 year, 3 year, 7 year time frame between when the project is finished and when this wetland area that's been disturbed returns to its previous function?
Mr. Chair, would you like me to answer that now, or would you?
You want to do it quickly? Go ahead.
Sure. I think it would be around 2 years. A little less, a little more, somewhere in the range of 2 years.
Okay.
After the planting, the first year the planting gets established, and then the second year it starts to be more vigorous and productive.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. For those comments. The Pequannock River watershed study specifically outlines these areas, and the watersheds are at risk from potential development. And the goal here is to increase the water quality of the Pequannock River watershed. And it seems this development is falling short of some of the goals of that watershed study in protecting habitat and restoring habitat. And I know we're working towards some LID stuff here. And I don't know if there's any additional LID low impact development practices that can be included as well. But it seems that this project is falling short of the Pequannock River watershed study. And I'd just like to see your response to that as part of your continued review on this project. Mr. Hollister, you mentioned that there was no prudent and feasible alternatives required for this project because of the sort of the community jumping to the head of line here and issuing request for a public hearing. I think a prudent and feasible alternative is still something that the commission would benefit from on this project. Just to understand the thought processes that the team went through in coming up with the design that they've got.
Okay.
And I still have specific concerns about the footing drains on the foundation portion of the project, where you've got the walkout foundation and those footing drains actually draining the wetlands soils directly above it, because those footing drains will be down at a lower elevation than the wetlands behind it by probably about 4 feet. And what steps can be taken to, maybe it's just a crawl space there as opposed to a full basement, because that putting a subsurface drain, essentially a French drain below a wetland, will have the effect of draining it, which would be a significant impact to that wetland, and over the long term, really destroy it. So that is a serious concern. So if you could respond and address those concerns, the commission would appreciate it. I do appreciate the innovative approach to this, with the bridge house. It is quite different than a pedestrian bridge with open slats for decking, but they are quite different. But I appreciate the innovative approach here. That's it for my comments here at this point. I think I gave you a little bit of homework in the meantime to go back and look at and come back with some answers, and I appreciate Mr. Kenny's answers in the short term. And for that, I'm done for the moment.
Quick comment for Mr. Kenny. When you do the foundation, where's the soil going to be stored? And then I'm assuming it's got to be taken off the site, because unless you're going to spread it or whatever you're going to do, if you can address that. Then the other quick thought I had, I was watching when all the plantings that are shown on the back part of the property. I'm concerned about how do you maintain the house, and also how much access are you going to actually have? Because again, it's only paper that we're looking at, but it looks like your plantings are like almost right up to the house. So, how is that handled? So at that point, I'm going to go over to the commission again. Any other comments? Bob Ferrigno, do you have any thoughts? Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
Mr.
I just saw Greg raise his hand. Go ahead, Greg.
Through the chair. I guess it's to Mr. Kenny, and I don't know if you have an answer. I go back to, I don't know, it was a month or two ago, Commissioner Verespi brought up a discussion about under the cantilever or the bridge, what if all this area dies? You're throwing this comparison of trefoil, which is a pedestrian bridge. I think that's I think that was Attorney Hollister. That's a poor comparison. It's a much smaller bridge. It has slats, probably. You could see even from the photo of the light. I think that's going to be an interesting discussion. I don't know how to do it. There's a Southwestern Conservation Group. You guys implied that you just sort of want them to withdraw some of that stuff. I'm not convinced that this area is just going to die, and then we're going to deal with all this sediment. Every time it rains, you're going to have all this sediment pushing down. So you probably don't have an answer tonight, but I think that's going to be a big discussion point going forward. That's my comment.
Commissioner, this is Tim Hollister. I just want to clarify. My greater concern was with the Conservation Commission. The Southwest Conservation report I haven't even fully read yet.
Conservation Commission from Trumbull, or
yes, the Trumbull Conservation Commission.
Okay. I was talking about the Southwestern.
Yes, and I did not comment substantively on that because
I misunderstood.
quite lengthy.
I just want to make sure, as you guys as we go into next month? I know you don't have answers now. Everybody seems to have a different opinion of what's going to happen under this bridge. And I believe there's a high likelihood, I agree with Commissioner Veresky, brought this up either a month or two ago. I think there's a high probability that this whole wetlands, there's going to be nothing growing underneath it. It'll become a dead area. And with basically water running through there, we're going to see a lot of erosion, a lot of sediment moving through there. I think it's a real problem. So I think you guys have to think about that, evaluate it, give us some, I don't know how to get professional opinions on this. I'm just throwing it out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, tagging along on that thought, Greg, is my thoughts were, how do they maintain under the bridge? What are the materials? And when they do, they're going to be right in the middle of the stream, the wetland. So that's something they can address also. I think I saw Carmine's hand up before.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Carmine.
You're the chair. Going along with Greg, Mr. Kenny, you mentioned the canopy being removed versus the bridge house. That bridge house prevents rainfall 12 months out of the year. With the canopy that remains, when they lose their leaves 5 months out of the year during the wintertime, granted, there's not as much rainfall, snowfall, but there is something. And that will, replenish the wetland soil, where with the bridge house, nothing is going to get there all year long. To Attorney Hollister, you mentioned 1,200 feet was the minimum, and that's where you are. Well, my calculations show that just the bridge section is 1,200 feet, first floor, plus the section that would be to the southeast, which is another minimum 750 square feet. So you're well over the 1,200 square feet required by the town of Trumbull. And the possibility of reducing the footprint is there.
All right, I say, Greg, are you?
No, I'm okay.
You want to talk? Okay. Go ahead, John.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So before I mentioned about moving the way they come into the property to dig the footings, I have that same concern that once we put the house, this bridge house over it, everything underneath is going to die. Because it's not going to get the sunlight, or the ecology of that area is definitely changed because we're putting a bridge over this area. So we need to if we're going to do any impact, it should just be in those areas that we already know are going to be disturbed. And that you also brought up the question about the vegetation coming up right up to the house on one side. I can't see that happening either. That's why I suggested extending a walkway all the way along that side of the house with a rail, so that it wouldn't have vegetation all the way up to the house, and people wouldn't be, and you could grow vegetation in such a way that people aren't going to be walking through it, but you'd be taking these ramps around the house itself. Was it clear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the commission? Okay, so let's move along. Mr. Hollister, or Attorney Hollister, would you like to close this out for the evening? As we still have to do work sessions and other things tonight, so.
Yes, well, thank you. I've taken copious notes. I hope most of them are accurate, but if not, we'll go back to the tape, make sure we have all the questions correct. I just go back to what I said earlier. I'm most concerned at this point about timing. We're going to jump on these responses in writing ASAP. And I know you can't order it, Mr. Chair, but I just want to say if we can at least strongly encourage anyone who has anything else in writing to submit, to get it to us 10 days or so before the hearing. I just don't want to show up on June 4th and be hit with letters and reports and things that we've never seen before, because then we'll be back for a 6th appearance in July, and just trying to avoid that. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kenny, did you have anything to say before we move on?
No, thank you.
Okay,
Through the
you're good.
chair.
Now, go ahead, David.
What is the status of third-party review for this application?
Okay, what I'd like to see is, unfortunately, Chris, who's the director of Southwest, could not appear tonight. Also, we didn't get the material until literally yesterday. So I didn't feel we had enough time to, review it and show it the respect it deserves on all the materials that we get. So what I'm hoping to do is that he will be able to present to us, because there's a lot in there, and I'd like him to be able to be here to answer any questions. Also, it helps the applicant. And then that would also, next month, we will then be able to go through the engineering comments that Tatiana had requested. And let's see, what else here? And then also, I'd like to actually see the stuff come in a couple weeks beforehand to give our engineering department enough time to review. Is again, what I have found doing what I do for a living, every department, I'm talking all the different towns and cities, are all desperately short. In Danbury and Westport and in Wilton and in Greenwich, all of them that I've just dealt with recently, they're all short-staffed. So the sooner the better, so it gives us time to review it.
Would this
All right.
application warrant beyond Southwest Conservation District a third-party review?
It's who we normally go to, and I didn't, I don't know of anybody else that we've worked with in the past. When we've had wetland issues as far as marking, we've gone to different people. Like on Hidden Pond, we had 4 people for that. According to Mr. Kenny and Attorney Hollister, I believe we had 4 people that delineated on the wetlands on this. Am I correct, Counselor?
Yes, and a very long, thorough review from Ty and Bond, which is in your materials.
And that's a third party there. Thank you, Counselor. So.
And Mr. Chairman, I do believe that Attorney Hollister incorporated that prior application into this application, correct, Counselor, by reference. So we can refer to that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just say the applicant, I'm going to, without consulting with my team, I'm going to say we'll get our stuff in by Friday, May 17th. That's 10 days from now.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So we are going to continue the public hearing to our June 4th meeting. Do I need a motion on that, Counselor?
Yes, I think that's a good idea. We're going to continue the public hearing to our next regularly scheduled meeting, June 4th. That meeting will be conducted by Zoom or remotely.
I'll make a motion to continue this public hearing to our next regularly scheduled meeting in June.
Okay, and seconded by Bob. I'm a yes. Greg, you're a yes. David's a yes. Bob's a yes. John's a yes, and Carmine. All right, very good. We will see you on June 4th. And let's see. So now we should go to work session. Okay, on application 24-05. That's 120, 140 Holly Lane, the Tesla. I'd like to get a motion to approve as submitted with conditions.
Motion approved.
Okay, Greg, I'm gonna
Um,
do the motion and Bob's gonna second it. Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve application 2405. Permit approval to install 12 electric vehicle chargers, 3 superchargers, switchgear, and a pad mounted transformer within a regulated area at 120 140 Hawley Lane in accordance to the following conditions from the town of Trumbull Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission, Section 1, General Conditions 1.1 to 1.10. And I'm going to add in Section 2, Site-Specific Conditions for Approval 2.9, that all new plantings have serviceability 1 year later at minimum. And a Section 3 Additional Condition 3.1, submit a revised planning plan to engineering looking for an alternate to the sedge, right? Is that correct, Commissioner?
Yes.
We want to get rid of the sedge?
Yes.
So those were the notes I had.
Okay, the other condition was that I asked that the cleanup go to the water's edge.
Okay, clean up to the
So-
water. Got it.
And that cleanup should get done prior to issuing a building permit.
Very good. Okay, have we missed anything? Anything else? John, you've been working on this. Any other comments from engineering?
No, we're all set.
All right, let's take it to a vote. I'm a yes. Greg?
Yes.
Yes.
Bob? Yes.
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And Carmine?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
Okay. We will move to application 24-07, which was the 15 Saxony Drive, permit approval for the barn addition. Can I get an approval as submitted, Gregory?
Yes, make a
And I
motion.
need a second on it.
Second.
And seconded by Bob Ferrigno. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Approval of 2407 from the town of Trumbull's Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission with Section 1 General Conditions 1.1 to 1.10 and Site-Specific Conditions 2.9, where all new plantings should have a survivability of 1 year minimum, and Section 3 Addition Condition 3.1, revise the 100-foot setback to reflect the man-made fish pond as being considered a wetland area. Submit those to engineering. Revise the plans, submit to engineering.
Okay, I open to the commission. Have we missed anything? Are we good?
Just curious, why is the fish pond now wet? Did you hear my question?
Yeah. Well, no, when you do a pond, you do a man-made pond on it. It becomes
Does
part of
the
it.
water leave the pond?
Yes.
It does. It goes into another stream. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to bring it to a vote. I'm a yes. Carmine?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
John Loria?
Yes.
Okay, so that's approved. Before we go to the field inspections, minutes for April 2nd, 2024. Commissioner DeFeo.
I make the recommendation that the minutes from the April 2nd, 2024 meeting be approved as presented.
Okay, I need a second.
I second it.
Okay, Greg is seconding it. I'm going to do a hand vote. Everyone is an approval? I see everyone's hand up. Okay, that got approved. All right, we're going to go to field inspections. because normally I go to you and Tatiana. I would say May 2nd, which is a Monday, or May 21st, which is a Tuesday. Any problems with that? I don't know if you have conferences or anything, so does that work? May 20th?
That's fine.
Fine, okay, so that's what we will do. We will do May 20th for bear with me 1 second here. For 320 Shelton Road, which is application 24-12. Application 24-11 is agent approval. And Attorney Cordone, on application 2411 being the agent approval, should I bring that to a motion for approval from the commission, or is that fine?
I think we voted at the beginning to refer it to.
I'm not sure if we did or didn't. Did we, Colleen?
Did.
I'm not sure. Long evening.
I'm
We
checking.
did. Okay, wait a moment. I'm seeing a bobbing head, better known as Bill Maher. He's giving me the bobbing. Okay.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
All right. While I've got you there, Colleen, is there anything else that we need to discuss? We good?
What time for the field inspections on May
No,
20th?
always 3 o'clock. That's the only one there. So we'll do it at the site.
At 3 o'clock?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
And
That was all.
Through the
yep,
chair.
I'm reviewing. Was that
This is David.
oh, okay, David, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was looking down.
There was a property on Vintage Road that they were doing a lot of tree cutting, filling in the front yard. I asked the town staff to go by and look at it. The front yard by the road has been swampy and wet for as long as I've lived here, for 20 some odd years. And seeing what they had done, there's fill within an area that's obviously swampy. Town staff went out and said, everything was kosher. The GIS maps didn't show any wet area in that area, but on a field inspection, if you go out and look at it, it's pretty darn wet, and I'm just worried that we missed the ball on something.
Dave,
John,
why don't you call the office and discuss that with staff?
Because unfortunately, we don't have Tatiana here tonight, so we'll do a follow-up in a couple of days when she's back. All right, and I'll let you know what's happening.
That house?
It's on the cul-de-sac on Vintage, on the right-hand side.
It was 7 Vintage.
And there's a big swampy area right along the road there.
All right. 'Cause you didn't get out there yet, did you, John? Did you look at it?
Yes, I was the one who looked at the property. Based on our GIS map, all of the work that was being done was outside of wetlands.
All right, well, I'll discuss it with Tatiana when she gets back in a couple of days, and we'll follow up for you. Okay, David?
Thank you.
Okay, anything else that I've missed? Attorney Cordone, are we good?
I think we are.
All right. If there be no objections, I move to adjourn, and I thank you all. I really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, good night.